baby's home. Cairo is my baby's home. One bad Cairo night won't be long. Women in Cairo, they will treat you kind and sweet. Women in Cairo, they will treat you kind and sweet. Catch you around and take you off your feet. Shoot you, knock you, teach you and cut you too. Shoot you and knock you, teach you and cut you too. They get through the graveyard, then for you. Cairo, babe. Cairo, babe. Women in Cairo send you down to your grave.
Hello everybody. Evening, morning, afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Great to be here. Another Monday, and I'm really inspired by today's subject because it's been inspired by things that have been happening to me lately, things that I've been doing, not doing, postponing doing because they were uncomfortable in a way or two or three, and yeah, we'll see how that all goes today. Hello. All right. Nice to see you, Graham. Are you going to the Acoustic Blues weekend? Just wondering. It's now in March. Mr. Hunt, we are going to talk today, so stay tuned. Welcome, Albert. Great to see you. So, what's the deal about this being overwhelmed by the geniosity of somebody else? Maybe doing the stuff you'd like to do or are already doing or are thinking about doing and have been doing but quit. So those are a couple of angles I'm going to be using today. But first of all, to start off that I'm exceptionally happy today because I just declared my VAT. In Sweden, it's called momsdeklaration. It's when you declare your VAT for the past year, and I'm kind of stoked that, yeah, I'm gonna be paying some money back, but that also means that we've done quite okay at the company, so I'm happy with that. Oh, that's right. Graham's going to be doing the sound during the Acoustic Blues weekend. And, so you guys are in Wantage? I forgot. But anyway, it's a great lineup. It's a Little George Surf, it's Sonny Black, Michael Roach, Abby Budgeon, and I think Will Wild, right, on harmonica. So it's going to be a great event. I've done the Acoustic Blues weekend for the Euro Blues in November last year, and now this crew is doing it. And then I think we're all getting together in the summer for the Blues Week 2023. But before that, I'll do my guitar retreat. And speaking about the retreat, I've got one group full, so now there are only spaces left and slots open in the group 2. So in one of the upcoming live streams, I'll be talking more about that. Great. All right. So let me know in the chat, what are your current projects? What are you doing? Have you been postponing some things? Like I've done my tax work with VAT. The deadline was today, and I declared everything today. Yeah, sometimes. They say, I work best under press. Not always. So, are there any pain points in your endeavors to become a better musician, player of some instrument, content creator, creative person of any kind? Just let me know about that. A bit of housekeeping before I really start. It's the better video and audio on YouTube. So if you're watching this on Facebook, do switch over to YouTube because it's a better experience. If you're watching on your mobile phones though, or even tablets, it's going to be okay. Yeah, but usually it's better audio and video on YouTube. At the same time, I've put the link to the YouTube even in the comments of the Facebook event. So enough about that. I've got some new content ideas coming up. That it's going to be a couple of live streams about gear, but also peripherals, things that we use to carry the gear with, bags, accessories, pouches, everything that makes the musician life easier. I'm going to talk about that. We're going to be talking about some apps, productivity. Yeah, we'll see. So let me welcome you with something. And it's got a lot to do with being overwhelmed, sometimes very positively, sometimes kind of, well, shouldn't be negative, but let's just start with playing new song. Let's see. there's a little reason why playing about the burden and ain't gonna study war no more. The idea and the message of old spiritual down by the riverside that I just kind of went into it because it's a song that's been inspiring me for ages. And ever since I was a kid, when I saw the Golden Gate Quartet performing that, I was like 8 or 9 years old. And then when I started playing the guitar, that song and a couple of more songs by the Golden Gate Quartet that they sang, and we later on bought the records of, they made me switch from playing the accordion to guitar. Because at the time when I was like, I don't know, between 12 and 15, somewhere there, I just started, my parents just sent me to take accordion lessons, and we were playing like basically some kind of folk music and some evergreens and whatever, but I just didn't like it. Didn't really, I couldn't really understand the depth of it. Now I'm sorry that I can't play accordion really well. At the time when I was a kid, I was actually playing like 5 or 6 days a week and all that, so I wasn't good, but I was okay. I could really, take care of the instrument. But I really wanted to play something else, and then I just thought about these songs and this music, and I just somehow begged them to finally buy me a guitar, and that's what I started playing. I started playing some spiritual music and old gospel, and then I went on to listening to more modern music and everything. So kind of it all sent me this way to the place where I am today, for better or worse. I don't know. But anyway, today's theme is going to be about getting overwhelmed by stuff. And before I give you some blues backup, as we usually do, so we will still concentrate on guitar playing, of course. The inspiration for this particular live stream today and the theme today is because I've been listening to what was happening around me, and although I have at least 7 or 8 live streams totally planned and scripted out, and I know what I want to talk about and all that, so I was thinking, no, today I'm gonna be doing something different, because I've been kind of listening and getting these good vibes from the things that I've seen online. And I watch a lot of YouTube. You can easily say too much of YouTube, but sometimes you really end up watching great content. And one of the things that I've been watching was Rick Beato, a fantastic YouTube channel. Look him up. He's a musician himself, but he's also analyzing songs. He's so knowledgeable about music business and everything, so I really follow him. And then I stumbled upon one of his later videos where he interviewed Keith Jarrett, the famous piano player. And Keith Jarrett was one of my favorite musicians to listen to all through the years, although I've never played piano, but he is so influential, he's so inspiring, and he plays music. He doesn't even play piano. I don't think I could ever listen to him and relate to, oh, this is right hand, this is left hand, he's doing this or that way. So I was really sad to hear that Keith Jarrett had a stroke and he couldn't play anymore with his left hand. But he gets by with his right hand, and he's not performing anymore. He's at this age that he retired as a performing musician, as I know of. But in this interview, he was talking to Rick Beato, and Rick was asking him about, okay, how did you adapt to this problem that you cannot play with your left hand anymore? Because Keith had his left hand and whole arm kind of in a bandage and just hanging next to his body, right, like this, right? But then he started playing with his right hand, and what he could play with his right hand only is something that some players won't learn for the lifetime of playing piano, because it's not about the technique, it's not about the number of notes he played. It's how he combined those notes with one hand only. He could just give me a glimpse of a chord and then go through a couple of phrases, and then he would just burst into a melody line, and then we'd go back to some rhythmical stuff and all that. He was playing like a minute and a half of just, getting into it, and Rick Beato was just mesmerized, like, Jesus, that's it. So I was stoked by just watching that video about the vulnerability of it all, how fragile we are as human beings, as musicians, as everything is happening around us. So that was the first kind of influence of things that affected the choice of the theme for today. And then the second one was that I was listening to a podcast by Tom Buck. Tom was a guest in my live stream 2-3 weeks ago. Fantastic content creator and a wonderful person. And he has this podcast where he finished off the previous season with a podcast called Jack of All Trades, a Master of None. I would always add a master of some, because I think that today the development of how easy it is to reach the information online and to learn things has evolved into something which is absolutely amazing and unthinkable of like 25 years ago when internet just started. So today we have the opportunity to become really good at many different areas, things that are maybe some not always related, but can be related along the way. As we're doing things, then all of a sudden all little pieces of knowledge that we gathered from somewhere can sometimes kind of go into one channel of wow, this is a skill. Now I know how to do this, and I know this deeply. So just thinking about that gave me the idea for today. And the third one was a video by Venus Theory. It's a guy, Cameron, I think he's Canadian, also on YouTube. And I'll show you later on. I have a couple of links in my web browser. I'll go into that also. And I'll show you that. And he had this video called Why You Can't Finish Music, with the feeling of being overwhelmed by what we're doing. Sometimes this search for the perfection, it's never good enough, and we're never finished, and we never really fulfill what we're doing. So those three. Let me get back to some nice guitar backup for you. So we're in open D, and I'll play you the backup for a slow blues in open D. And this is resembling of Rambling on My Mind by Robert Johnson. Think of this intro after I've played it, and then I'll get back to it. There's a reason for this. All right. So the reason why I played this particular backup and kind of backup is first remember of how ingenious was the intro lick by Robert Johnson when he came with this song in 1936 or 38, somewhere there in that period. It's one of those 29 songs that he ever recorded, and I think he recorded this song only once. So what's so special about this song? Being a genius of treating a guitar as a complete orchestra. I think that was Robert Johnson's biggest strength. Now, he was listening to the old masters, people who came before him. And by listening to Robert Johnson, if you go from a song to song on his records, you can always find a reference to one of the older masters. And there has been discussions about, oh, he's just copying Lonnie Johnson in Malted Milk, or he's just doing this like Blind Lamber Jefferson, oh, he's just copying somebody else or whatever, because people recognize the idiom, the way he played some of the phrases, and that's okay. And he was influenced, which means, yes, he was influenced, but he came out and he came up with his own licks. And that's one of the angles I have on this thing being overwhelmed or inspired. Because he was inspired by the old masters, and maybe he was overwhelmed in the beginning when he just saw somebody delivering, playing live. He was watching Son House playing on house parties, and he was definitely impressed and thought, wow, look at this. So when he came with a walking blues rendition of his own, that was heavily based on what Son House played in the late 20s. And there was a crappy, very bad audio recording of that on one of the old early recordings with Son House. But you can just hear exactly. It's the same notes basically he played. But Robert Johnson put it into his own idiom, into his own way of, interpreting those ideas or notes. So if we go back and just analyze this little first intro. So what did he do there? He could have played like this. And then go into the intro. No, but he went into this. And then went back to the basses. Or like this. And then, so he just jumped all over back to the 12th fret to do kind of this little lick. And then, like, so what he did here on the basses, he basically just played the remaining notes of just a backup in shuffle blues, right? So he just put together a package of this kind of intro lick that just led us all into the singing when he's telling you, I got rambling on my mind, right? So I think that was one of the most influential slide licks and arrangement solutions that I've ever heard when I heard him for the first time. It was like, man, this is absolutely amazing. And since this is technically difficult if you've never played the slide, but if you are any accomplished at playing the slide, shuffle, slow blues and all that, these notes are not that complicated to reach. But I will never even dream of being equally expressive and deep as Robert Johnson was, because that was his genius, that's his origins, that's his music and all that. We're doing it because we love it, and that's where we are, that's where we'll stay. Maybe we'll get better, but that's it. But if I just analyze the way he played it, this part on the 12th fret on the you can change that. You can come up with your own ideas, not getting overwhelmed by the complexity of it, but maybe adding something else. Usually we overcomplicate things, and I did that a little bit deliberately in the backup when I played previously, but that's because I threw in much more licks and many more notes than Robert Johnson played in this whole song for as long as it lasted in the original version, because he was actually only accompanying his singing, and he was never in the way of his own singing. Now, I didn't sing here, so I thought, okay, maybe I'll just put in some more licks and maybe express some other feelings and emotions, and I went through. But this was mostly to honor him and the way he combined the slide playing and the lick with a backup. So I was also jumping back and forth between the backups and some melody lines and all that. So that's one of the ways. I have that. I wrote that a little bit later on in my script, but I can tell you right now. But basically, it's the process of doing is the key of not getting overwhelmed too much. If you're trying to do something that somebody else did before you and you want to learn, oh, how did they do that? You can buy books, you can buy lessons online, you can get access to some fantastic musicians, lessons about exactly how the old masters have played. I mean, note for note. And you can get that, and you can learn how they played. But you, of course, will never be able to play the same way they did. But it's great to get to know, okay, all right, that's how they did it. But not getting overwhelmed is also that, okay, you do the everyday work, and even if you don't succeed in copying exactly how some of the masters that overwhelm us did things, along the way, you will maybe and eventually will come up with your own ideas. I know I'm a living example of making a couple of instrumentals by not being able to copy, I don't know, something that maybe Muddy Waters did or Louisiana Red or some of the other masters I've been listening to, and then I can, okay, I'm already with my guitar in my hand, okay, I've tried for like 10, 20 minutes, it just didn't work, and all of a sudden I started fooling around with something else, oh, wait, what was that? And then you're on the way to something. That's another tip that I have when we feel overwhelmed and think like, oh, I've tried, I gave it a half an hour, I can't do it, I just give up. Don't. Keep playing. That's the key. The process. If you're enjoying holding your instrument in your hands, and just like I love this heaviness of this guitar, right? I could go, I don't know, make some food with the guitar hanging around my neck, because that's me. I love doing it. But I've met many people who just are so overwhelmed by either the most popular musicians or most prolific instrumentalists within the genre that they want to play and they love, that they just start a little bit, but then they just quit. And that's also one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this. Good. Let's see what you guys are saying. I've seen David was here, and Blind Guy, his wife, they're alive. Great. I have to give a special welcome to Obs. Thanks for coming. Thanks for chiming in. Great. Which time zone are you in? Is this late or early for you? I'm watching David Hunt's live stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and it's 6 o'clock in the morning for him. Amazing. I'm not sure I'd be able to do that. That's fantastic. Now it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I guess you're having your afternoon tea or coffee and relaxing and listening to me. Thank you so much for coming as well, David. All right, so hi, Obs. Blind Guy's wife, they're live. So hi, everyone. I'm listening and making my famous cheesy mac. All right. Makes Paul homesick, yeah. All right. I'm clicking on these comments, but they're not coming up. But now they are. Good. All right. How do you combat the overwhelming feeling? I will get to that, David. Definitely. I will. Because no matter what people think, professional musicians, even those absolutely biggest, most influential musicians, are sometimes very fragile and feel overwhelmed. Maybe not by somebody else's playing, but overwhelmed by your own goals that you set sometimes too high, expectations that are too deep, and sometimes the better you become at something, and this goes for everything, for scientists, for musicians, for I don't know, doctors, everybody. The more you know about a subject, the more you're discovering that black hole of never-ending knowledge and never-ending, never fulfilling. And where's the end of it? Let's not talk about universal spirituality or something like that. Just think about knowledge. It's a black hole that will swallow you dead if you just don't find a way not to get overwhelmed, but inspired instead. Oh yeah, keep it simple. Great. I think keeping it simple means also the attitude. Not only keeping it simple for the sake of simplicity in things, but really simple as, I don't know, maybe not asking yourself too often, like, why? Why am I doing this? Abby Bajan, hello. Let's see. Abby says, Robert Johnson was one of the first musicians to learn from records rather than directly from others in the local area. Exactly. He's one of us. Robert Johnson is, what's it called? It's called a lakmus paper in chemical science. That, you know, you pour it into water and it gives you a reaction in different colors, like, oh, that's it. This is red, this is blue, this is all that. Now, he was kind of soaking in all the influences from musicians that came before him, got influenced, got inspired, and then he came up with his own stuff, the best way possible. And he was also one of the first blues artists that could really master several styles of blues. If you listen to, okay, he's not the only one, but one of the very few. Many other blues artists who played traditional country blues, Mississippi blues, Texas blues, and all that, they played within a couple of rhythmic patterns, in a couple of tonal keys, maybe in their specific tunings. Some people were, let's say, Big Joe Williams was known for his songs in open G tuning, right? Mississippi Fred McDowell played one of his, I think, best songs in open G, but he was more known for the things he played in open D and his rhythmical stuff and all that. So if you look at many other musicians of that era, many of them were playing only within one style, and they played it all through their careers. But Robert Johnson, albeit a very short-lived, and his career was so short, I don't know what he would have done if he could play for like 30, 40 years more. I think that's he was so versatile already when he was so young. Clark Terry has a great saying, imitate, assimilate, innovate. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so OBS and is EST. Okay, so it's 3 o'clock p.m. on your end as well. Hi, Tom. Great to see you. Thank you so much. Almo was such a great experience. I even told a story about it in one of my previous live streams about playing in the street, the street blues, gatu blues, as it's called in Swedish. That's amazing. Where the audience is like 28 centimeters from your face while you're playing, digging it. They're great. All right, let me see. Let me bring this up. What Abby just said. We're all trying to sound exactly like the great musicians, especially in blues, but they were just playing in the way that came natural to them. That can be more scary, to trust yourself. Yeah, exactly. After more than 40 years of playing the guitar, it's kind of a definition of what I'm aiming at, to trust myself and just sometimes let go. And blues is a trap, because blues is so powerful, so simple, but so complex. It's within a frame when it comes to rhythms, when it comes to chord changes, when it comes to choice of chords. But within that frame, there's so much freedom and so much possibility to get creative and find your own ways. And definitely, yes, I agree on that. So, all right, back to the script. Let me tell you something else about this. I've heard some of the statements here. In this video that I told you about, this guy, Venus Theory, Cameron. Oh, I could might as well just put it up. Give me a second. Where's my mouse? There's my mouse. This whole
episode of Morning Coffee with Cameron is brought to you in part by
Nope, I don't want to listen to it.
Bandzoogle. Bandzoogle is a care as much. Let's rip off the Band-Aid here and
Did you hear this? I'm sorry. So, this is the guy. And I will just bring it up first. Give me a second. So, this is Cameron, and this is a channel that I've been following lately because I'm learning a bit about electronic music, and I'm trying to work with some, MIDI controllers stuff. I'm interested in developing in that area a little bit more. So he's got one of the greatest channels. So what he did in this video, why you can't finish music, is that he talks about us very often measuring ourselves after the finished achievements of the great masters. And this comes for any area, right? Music, photography, paintings, whatever we get overwhelmed by or mesmerized by or just are so impressed that it pushes us down. It's like, oh man, I'll never be that good. But in this video, I think it's a fantastic statement when he says, like, we never get to see the lousy verses some poets started with. All those piles of paper that they threw away because they were not good enough. The bad images a famous photographer took. We just see the results. And if we are in a creative crisis or are overwhelmed by somebody's geniosity and their endeavors and what they've achieved, that's sometimes very easy to leave some bad taste in your mouth, and you get overwhelmed by that. But we need to think about that we're just when we are comparing ourselves to others, which is the first thing that's not good, right? We shouldn't be comparing ourselves. But if we're already doing that, we need to be aware that we're comparing ourselves with their absolutely best rendition, the best version of those people, because they released records and they let the record come out, but they've been working with that record for maybe years and going through ups and downs and being totally overwhelmed, right, by their own thing. And still, when they realize, when they release all that, it's very often that they say, oh, this wasn't good enough. I just put it out because my agent was after me, and I had this contract and I have to release like 2 records a year, so my deadline was like 2 weeks ago, so I just had to finish, right? And because being a creative, you will maybe just fine polish things to eternity, to like, oh God, I'll never be finished with this because it's never good enough. It's better done than perfect, because what's perfect is not done yet, right? So, there's this other little thing that I want to show you. I have a very special acquaintance with a designer from Munich, Larry Neal, and she's one of the most inspiring people I've ever met, because she's working with dancing, music, she's drawing, she's an illustrator, she's a designer, jack of all trades and master of many. I could define her that way. So I saw some of her work online, and I contacted her and I said, look, I've got this idea of making a line of kind of images that are living slides for the guitar. So like these, right? And what give me a sec. So what happened was that I sent her some images of my metal slide, of my glass slide, told her a little bit about the history of music and playing slide as a playing technique within blues. And now we're talking about somebody who's like 20 plus. Never listened to this kind of music before. But that was also my intention, not to go to a established designing agency who could draw some things for me any way I wanted. No, I thought she was so inspiring and so new, and I saw some of her illustrations that she was showing some villains. She had a project called 1,000 Faces, where she would like draw 1,000 faces within a period of time, and just come up with new faces every day, right? I said, man, I'd love to have some slide images, but as personalities. Every slide should have a personality, because this slide, this glass slide, is by Ian McVie. And Ian McVie is, he's a person. I see Ian every time I play this slide. I know Simon from Daddy Slide, who made this slide with his father. This is a living thing for me. It's like, man, and every slide that I have, I had more than 50 at one time. But then now I got maybe 20 altogether. But I know the history behind each and every one of them. So I wanted to put that into kind of graphical thing to do. I don't know. I'm going to be making some merch with T-shirts with some prints on and all that. And you see this little guy over here. That's Philip. Relaxed lying slide, right? And that's why I have him. That's Larry who made him. So let me just switch in the browser here to the villains, and let me see. This is what we're going to be talking about when it comes to overwhelming. And I'm just going back to what Larry gave me. And I just gave her a couple of ideas of how some definitions, some words about, okay, I want a slide with somebody who's like stuck, stuck in the roots, stuck in one part of their careers. They're not developing anymore. It's like, I'm stuck. I need to, get out of this and just move on, do something else, do something better or whatever. So if we feel like stuck and overwhelmed, maybe, I don't know, sometimes we'll maybe even feel a bit scared. Now, this is something that she came up with before. So this is nothing that's been ordered for this particular live stream. No, this is from before. And so sometimes we're scared by somebody else's playing, the complexity of it, the beauty of it. And by maybe just thinking about, okay, I'll never be able to do like this person. But is that the goal? of my own endeavor within maybe music? Should I, listen to Doc Watson and just, die trying to be and be able to play exactly like he did? Or should that just be an inspiration for me to get better every day at what I'm doing? And that's a development as well. So not getting scared. So it's better to be cool with it. Nowadays, when I'm at this age, I'm like 63 now in April, and maybe that's because of the age, but I'm really cool with everybody else's knowledge. I kind of closed the circle. I was listening to David Hunt. Remember, I promised I'd be back about this. Every Monday, David is improvising wildly within sometimes very familiar melody lines, chord shapes, songs that he basically always plays. And he admits it himself when he's finally, let's say, talking about after maybe 35, 40 minutes of playing without saying anything, and then he gets into talking to us, and he said, man, I've been doing this all my life, and I do this all the time. And I always comment on his playing, because I think each time he plays Down by the Riverside, there's always a nuance of something new, something. That's why I played it in the beginning of this today's live stream. Just like, okay, I'll just throw myself over the limb and try to play it and see if I can come up with maybe one or two parts of the melody line, or maybe some other chord solution than before, because I'm very inspired. In the beginning, I was overwhelmed because I just thought this was so superior, this is so fantastic. And I've even tried to kind of explain myself to myself. Why am I so overwhelmed? And how can I cope with it? Well, I say, well, okay, he's got two hands and the piano is much larger, when it comes to the choice of notes. And on the guitar, you can't do this here because as soon as you play up the neck, you need to leave the basses and all that. No. It's the pure creativity. Just remember this intro lick of Rattling on My Mind by Robert Johnson. So there are no excuses. So anyway, thank you so much for your influence, David. Now, so we're cool with that. We're cool with whatever somebody else is doing, and the feeling of overwhelmed, not overwhelmed, just inspired. Sometimes, some people tell me they're angry at themselves that they can't do it, angry at these fantastic musicians who just played out of the guitar or whatever. I've had slide students who just told me, like, man, I'm listening to their trucks, and I just think, what's the point? I'll never be that good. So that's a lot of, emotions that need to be dealt with. And I have loads of tips when people come to the workshops and feel overwhelmed by the greatest artists. So not getting angry, because still, they're your friends. They are your friends who inspire you, who fulfill your sometimes bad days with the joy of being fantastic at something, where you can let go of the feeling of overwhelmed and just enjoy, right? Still friends. I have a little story about that. So sometimes I even explain to myself, like, well, the reason why they're so good, maybe they have an extra pair of eyes. Maybe they have 3 zillion brain cells more than I have, or at least maybe we have the same amount of brain cells, but their cells are working better than mine. So whatever, sometimes, no excuses. It's just the way it is, and they're fantastic. I got another one. So look deep into yourself. I'm doing that very often, and defining what I want to do with the remaining part of my life. At a certain age, you start thinking about, what's on the other end? What's on the other side? And while I'm heading there, I want to have fun. So sometimes I'll look deep into myself, and I really advise everybody else to do that when they're overwhelmed sometimes, and maybe come over that line of getting inspired instead of being overwhelmed. Just look a little bit deeper into yourself and you'll find peace. It's going to be okay. But they can still mesmerize me. Sometimes I just go on, man, this is so damn good. It's fantastic. Sorry, shouldn't swear on YouTube. But that's the way it is. So we cool. And this about we cool, and with everything that I showed you now and everything that I told you about, let me just tell you a little story about Louisiana Red and Sam Mitchell, and one of the very, very young prodigies, musicians that I've been following and even playing together with for some times, a couple of years. So we'll start off with Sam Mitchell. Samuel was my real, true, first ever guitar hero when I just started playing slide. And that was in early 80s. Sammy came out with a record in 1978 on Kicking Mule, where he combined electric blues with acoustic stuff. And I was overwhelmed. I just didn't know what he was doing. It was something amazing. And I never even bothered trying to learn how he did these things. It was just like, what's the point? So I went my way and, learned things my way. And I was always listening to him just as a great influence. I was listening to his melodies like, oh, that's a fantastic vibrato. How does he do it? Let me try to do that. And his oily vibrato inspired me so much to come up with the way I play the vibrato with slide. That's one of the main reasons why I actually continued playing slide, because I could really let me show you. So when he played slide and I was listening to him, it was nothing like many other slide players of that time. Many of them were very aggressive and they played electric blues. And those who played acoustic blues kind of were always so energetic and so, I don't know, I just thought they were too punchy. And I was always playing like this kind of vibrato. And then when I heard Sammy, it was just like getting home. Like, that's right, you can do that, because that's how he's doing it. So his vibrato was always oily, soulful. He was like when we played, listen to the last song in the live stream that I always finish with, Sitting on Top of the World, and just listen how Sammy played slide in between my vocal lines in the beginning and then later on while we were singing together. That's a school of tasteful slide playing. So when I sing, now she's gone, so he's following me with that melody there, and I don't worry, because I'm going to the fifth chord. So, now it was in spring, one sunny day, my sweetheart left me. Comes in with a chord, she went away. Now she's gone, and I don't worry. And then he was just, hanging on that note. It was so soulful. It was so fantastic. So when we got to start playing together, you can just imagine how overwhelmed I was by the fact that he wants to play with me. 10 years older, more experienced, everything. I didn't even come with the loads of great paid jobs that he could say, that I could say, okay, he's with me just because I'm bringing in the money, and of course he wants to play with me. No, we were just going out there for the first time together and as a duo, and we needed to start playing together so people could hear us and then try to book us. And then we kind of went into the whole circuit and played festivals and did a couple of tours together. So we stayed together for like 4 years until he moved to Holland. But I mean, just this sheer moment of playing with somebody who is playing so well that you're always overwhelmed. But it was so inspiring. But Sammy was very fragile, almost as fragile as Louisiana Red. Let's go over to Louisiana. Louisiana was one of the musicians that I've never heard of. Well, I was just starting playing the blues. I was 28 years old when he was booked for the Jazz and Blues Festival in Belgrade in former Yugoslavia. And all of a sudden, my agent calls me and my harmonica player says, hey, Louisiana Red has lost his slide, or he broke his slide. He needs to find a new one. Could you help us with that? Oh, by the way, you're playing in his band tonight. So, what? What do you mean? Who? Louisiana Red? Who's that? Now I'm ashamed that I didn't know of him. But okay, so we got to the hotel and we were running around the whole Belgrade trying to find him a new slide or whatever. And then we found a wrench socket, right, that he thought was quite good and quite okay. But in the end, he ended up playing my slide for the evening. Louisiana was an amazing person to meet, just like that, because he was a package full of energy, full of fantastic emotions, and he was just always talking. And he was talking like he was playing. When he played, let's say, solo gigs later on, when I met him in Germany and started really hanging out with him and play with him for several years, he could play without a break for like 2 hours. The audiences were tired and like, oh man, come on, take a break. But he could just go on and go on and go on. He was very special, but he was very fragile. Like, I'm 28 years old, and actually I don't know anything about music at the time. I think I'm good, but I wasn't. And then we're sitting in his hotel room, and he's asking me, hey man, if I play this way, is this good? Is it? Should I play this tonight? Am I good at this? What do you think of my vibrato with this slide? I was like, man, what do you mean? This is fantastic. I was sitting there trembling, thinking like, man, I've never heard of this guy, and he's amazing. He plays just like Muddy Waters. He could play any Muddy Waters slide solo, melody line, chords. He could sing like Muddy. He was just fantastic. And that evening when we backed him up, way too many of us in the backup band because everybody wanted to play with him. So I think we were like 4 guitar players in the band, and then he played guitar and sang. But it was an amazing evening. He was fantastic. But Louisiana was very fragile. He was always fighting with his self-esteem. Sometimes he felt really bad before the gig, and sometimes you just couldn't make him start playing. Although we all knew, and he knew that, oh, it's going to be great. Just go on a stage and go up and play. But sometimes he would be in a backstage and just sitting there, and sometimes like going like a back and forth like this. Oh, I don't know. Should I go out? You think it's going to be okay? Yeah. And I couldn't realize why he would do something like that. But that's this other angle and the other side of getting overwhelmed. Sometimes we can be overwhelmed by ourselves, overwhelmed by our own feelings about our own artistry, things that we're doing, we're trying to do. It's a very, very, it's a tricky subject. Okay, I've been talking for a long time, and I'd like to see what you guys are saying in the chat. Michael Rhodes has a great saying too. No one can beat you at being you. Oh, that's so great. That's perfect. Exactly. Let me go back a little bit in the chat. Oh, that's right. Here we are when Geir came in, the Norwegian attack. I've learned something from you, Mac, even if you haven't expressed it directly. Blues is a personal thing. You don't have to copy anyone. Play at your own best capability. Make it your own. Thank you so much. Geir has been one of the participants in my guitar retreat at the island of Ven here in Sweden. And I mean, he's traveling all the way from Norway to be with us, which I really, really appreciate, of course. And the whole idea of the guitar retreat and not the guitar course is that they should be relaxing. We're coming to an island, we're leaving the mainland behind us, we're on a boat. When we arrive to the island, we just relax and enjoy playing music. And it doesn't matter where we are, because no matter at what stage we are, we're still good. And we can still be our best ourselves, right? But there's also another thing, that when somebody tells me like, oh man, I'd be as good as you are. I've heard this from a student. If I only kept playing when I was young. Okay? Then somebody says, oh, I'll never be that good, no matter the criteria, what's good. For me, good is something, and for you, good can be something else. It depends. So they just give up. And here comes my last tip about being overwhelmed. Don't be the only judge of yourself and the things that you do and the things you want to achieve, and the judge of things that you have achieved. Because I don't know how many times I've maybe listened to some of my records when I was at a friend's house or maybe at a party, and they say, oh, here's Mako, let's play this song from his album. And I was like, oh God, no. And they say it's wonderful. You are always, and you will always be, your hardest judge. And we need to let go of that. Albert, did I give her a little history behind each of the slides? I don't get this. Anyway, of course, this is video, this is YouTube. Maybe you cannot tell the difference between these two slides so much, but the one on your left, no, the one on your right, this one, is Daddy slide, my preferred and fantastic handmade slide. But this is also a handmade slide. It's by the Mellert family, and it's got a little paper inside here. It says Mellert slides. And they were also father and son, and they kind of started to establish the slide making business in Sweden. And they came to me and gave me a couple of slides. I even have a display, a wooden display that they made by themselves. Oh, I can show you. It was called Mellert Brass. Mellert's Brass, right? So, I got this on my shelf, and I'll treasure this for the rest of my life, because this is one part of my life when they came, forward and just told me, hey man, we'd like you to have this, and would like to tell people about our slides and how they're good and all that, and give us whatever you think about them. And I just thought their slides were great. Heavy, it's a brass, great sound, but they just needed to be a little bit more polished, a little bit smoother in the attack. And they let's say, if we take one of those slides and play, let's say, you hear this, and compare to, of course, you'd like to see that as well. No, not there. There. So, right? And now let's play the Daddy slide. it's a bit quieter. These are nuances. I can hear it on my end. Maybe it's YouTube audio compression. I don't know how it sounds really on your end, but it's about something, the way the slide carries the note you're playing and all that. And it's about the weight, which was reduced on one part of the slide that I have and all that. So it's a long history behind all these slides that I have. Oh, Abby, you were wondering who did these illustrations. Larry Neal. It's spelled L-A-R-I-N-I-H-L. Larry Neal. If you just search on Google for 1,000 faces, Larry Neal, I guess you'll end up on her page. So we've been cooperating for like 2 years now, and because I'm overwhelmed by the complexity of the project of having your own merch and selling stuff and finding a company that can print on demand and not rip me off or whatever. So yeah, it takes some time, but she did her part fantastic. I'm really happy with that. Man, I'm way past the hour here. I really need to let you guys go, and let me see if I missed something in the chat. Some questions. Abby says, maybe the best musicians feel fragile and overwhelmed because that humility makes you keep wanting to get better. Yeah, of course. And that goes for every area in life that's creative and where you want to get better. Oh, okay, now I get it. Albert. This was the sound of my slides falling down because they're too heavy for this plate that I'm having my computer mouse on. Sorry about that sounds. I know everything sounds 10 times more on your end than here because of these microphones. And I just made a new setup to reach things easier, but no, I think I'll go back to the old one. Blind guy's wife, they're alive. Just hearing the word retreat relaxes me. Oh man, I just need to think about 21st or 23rd of July and I'm already relaxed. Like, yes, we're gonna do that. Phil has he says, I think it's easy to overanalyze and forget that the more you listen and the more you play, the simpler things become as you find your own voice. Fantastic. Really well said. Well said, Phil. Jonas, welcome. Great to see you. All right. So, Albert, now I get it. Because, when people write things in the chat, they relate to what I'm saying at the moment, but then that chat comes in like 20 seconds later, and I kind of miss the connection in between sometimes. And I'm not that good at responding to chat comments, and I get overwhelmed by myself talking too much. Yeah. Okra slide. Oh yeah. I remember when David sang about okra in one of his live streams. Give me some okra. I want to feel nice today. When I eat some okra, I don't know. Maybe I'll come up with some lyrics in the upcoming live streams, and we can think about that. Okra is a vegetable that's not so popular within, let's say, David's family. I don't think you guys like it, but I love it, and it's a part of many of the stews that I like to make sometimes, and it's inspired by Lebanese and Iranian cuisine, which are fantastic. I just love the food from the Middle East and all that. Man, guys, I gotta let you go. And thanks so much for coming today. It's been a blast. I think we just kind of started off with this subject, right? It's something that can be discussed more. And if I come up with any new ideas or angles to being or getting overwhelmed as a musician, as a creative person, I'll let you know in the upcoming live streams. But thanks so much for coming today, and I will see you guys next week. Right. See ya.
It wasn't spring, one sunny day, my sweetheart left me, thought she went away. Now she's gone, and I don't worry, but I'm sitting on top of the world. Things could call me up, down and out by soul. Said, come back, Daddy, Lord, I need you so. Now she's gone, and I don't worry, 'cause I'm sitting on top of the world. Like my peaches, don't you shake my tree. Get out of my orchard, let my peaches be. Now she's gone, I don't worry, but I'm sitting on top of the world. Wasn't spring, one sunny day, my sweetheart left me, now she went away. Now she's gone, and I don't worry, but I'm sitting on top of the world. Now she's gone, and I don't